Hello everyone, welcome to another session on machine learning and data science. I'm really grateful that you guys are watching these videos and learning something about the prerequisites about Python. So in this prerequisite session, we are going to talk about for loops in detail. So let's go ahead and jump right into the topic. This video will help you learn simple for loops using break and continue, the range function, nested for loops as well as pass statements. So let's open our SPIDER IDE and start developing the program for using for loops and how efficiently they could help you address certain loop related problems. Now consider a simple variable I, and it is declared as a list. It has three values, A, B and C. Now if I want to iterate through each of the items in the list and print out the values that are present in the list, I could just simply use my for loop here. So I'll say for, again for is all small letters, for say variable x in I, and you always put a colon here, and like I mentioned in my earlier sessions, a tab or a space or any kind of indentation would indicate and function as similar to a bracket. So I will say print x. Okay, so by doing this, what is going to happen is that the variable x is going to be assigned each value that is present in the list I, and that value is being printed. So let's go ahead, execute it and see. So when I execute this, you can see that we have actually printed A, B and C. Now suppose if I want to ensure that I print out all the values in the list, but whenever I witness a value B, I just want to escape that particular print. So in order to achieve that, I will just simply put a if clause inside my for. So you can use a simple if inside your for. So let's just take a look at it. If I say if x equal to b, okay, I will say continue, right? If x equal to b, then continue. Otherwise it will print the value of x. So now if I just go ahead and execute the for loop, let's see what happens. So you can see here it went to the value a, and then when it came to the value b, it evaluated that this particular value b is causing causing the condition to be true, and the corresponding value entry will go into continue mode. So it will skip that particular iteration of for loop further, and it will go to the next part of the iteration. So that is how a simple continue works. Now suppose if I reach the value of b anywhere in the list, suppose I have something like this. I have value d here, d, I have another value e here, and when I reach the value of b, if I don't want to print the list anymore, then what I could do is that I can use a break statement here instead of continue. So let me just go ahead and execute this particular part of the query. So executing this, so you can see it printed ADE, and as soon as it reached the value of B, starting with BCF, it did not print any of those values because the loop is exited. So this is how a simple break and continue will work in your for loop. Now there can be instances where you want to work on some numerical ranges, and that is the most common form that many programming languages use in their day-to-day logic. So I can say, let me just remove this. I use something called as a range function. So I put in range of, I'll say 10. So if I say range of 10, the 10 value is the stop value of it. Okay, so in the range I can give a start and stop, but for now first let's look at the stop. If I just give one value, that value is considered as the stop value of that range function. Means it will take all the values from 0 all the way till 10. Now let me just remove all this and have the simple print statement. When I execute this one, it will print all the way from 0 all the way till 9, and what happens when it reaches the 10 value, it will just go ahead and it will exit out this thing. Now in this range I can say that print me values between certain numbers. Say I will say print the values between 2 and 10. Now let's execute this and see how it functions. So you can see here it is starting with the value of 2 and it is printing all the way till 10. So the range function will anyhow be functioning in such a way that the value which is start is included, the stop value of that particular range is usually excluded. So this is very important to note, that the stop value is usually excluded. That implies that when you say 10, it will print 10 numbers, but the count of 10 starts from 0 in Python. So please pay attention to that whenever you are writing the range function for a for loop. Okay, so this is how your simple for loop range function works. So we have seen a simple for loop, we have seen how to use a break and continue inside a for loop, as well as we have seen how we can actually print the range function for it. Okay, now let's move on to the next topic. So a for loop can never be empty. So if you just remove this print statement, your for loop will throw an exception. There will be an error. It just expects an indented block. For some weird reason, if you ever find yourself in a position where you need to iterate through an empty for loop, then you could use a simple statement called as pass. So what pass does is that it just goes and says that hey, this is passed, it has come here, and now it has to go through the next item. So let me just execute that and show. So you can see here on the rightmost corner of the screen that because it is a simple pass, there is no action specified, it just ran the iteration and just exited once the iteration was done. So let me just run it again. So you can see again, so there's no activity which was done and it just exited the iteration. Now let's go back to our earlier example of printing the values between the range 2 and 10. Here, whenever a for loop ends organically, you can give out a condition of an else and you can print anything that you desire. So let me show you how it is done. So I put in an else here, else print for loop is done. So by doing this, what you're doing is you're giving the for range to execute values between 2 and 10, that is 2 and 2 all the way till 9 are printed here, and then you go to the else loop and you indicate that the for loop is done. Now please note that this could be used only when the for loop ends organically. By organically I mean that it clears its complete iteration and there is no intermediate break that happens between. So let me just execute this and show you how the result set looks like. So you can see here it just iterated the value of x from 2 to 9. So you can see that result here, and once this for loop is done, it just went for the else statement. Now suppose if I write a condition here like if x equals to 5, if I say that break the for loop, here the for loop is not ending organically here, right? It's not following the complete range between 2 and all the way till number 10, excluding number 10. So it is breaking somewhere in between. So in such cases, what will happen? The else will not be instigated. So let's just go ahead and execute this and see. So upon executing this, it printed the values 2, 3 and 4, and after 4, since the break is executed, it did not even go to the else portion of that particular for loop, and it just exited. So remember, your else component will work only and if the particular for loop ends organically, and that particular meaning of organically means the complete range or list iteration of the for loop is completed without any break statement. Okay, so this concludes your for loop using else. Now let's jump to our next topic of nested for loops. So what we can do here is, suppose you have a business question like this: print all the values that fall in the range of 2 and 10, and also what you do is that for each range between 2 and 10, print the first 5 numbers starting with 0. So I can say inside this for loop, for the value y in range 5, if I want to print the values from 0 to 5, I'll say just 5. I'll say print y, right? So what happens? So for each number between 2 and 10, it will start printing the value of y. So I'll say here print start of iteration, and I will print the end of iteration. So I should in my result set see a total of 0 all the way till 4, that is 5 iterations of value printing the value of y. Okay, so let me just not just 5, I apologize for that. You need to see all the way from 2 to 9, that is all those iterations that are going between 2 and 9. You need to see so many number of this thing start of iteration. So I'll say print x, so that we know which iteration is which. Now if I execute this, what will happen? You can see in the result set at the bottom scene, so it started with 2, it just printed numbers from 0 to 4. For 3, it printed numbers from 0 to 4, and so on so forth all the way till 9. So this is how you can nest a for loop inside a for loop, and this concludes our basic understanding of for loops. I hope you liked this session. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also please click the bell icon to receive notifications about my latest videos.